have a confession. I do a really crappy job of getting enough sodium in, and I haven't been feeling very well because of it. It's not that I don't salt my food. I salt my food pretty aggressively, and it offends some people even. I promise it's not your cooking. It's just that ever since I was a little girl, I have had this thing. It hasn't really been much of a thing since I was little, but I had this thing where I would get really dizzy if I was sitting up and then would stand up, or if I was laying down sometimes and then I'd sit up. I'd get really dizzy, and sometimes I would never like actually black out, but kind of gray out. And I went to the doctor. I can't remember exactly what they said it was, but ultimately the solution they proposed was I just needed to increase the sodium in my diet, and the recommendation, like this doctor actually knew what they were talking about, was doing a mineral rich salt as well, because you want all of the other minerals and not just sodium in there. But they specifically suggested that I put a 1/4 teaspoon of salt on every one of my meals. And I'm here to say that is very salty. I'm not even talking about like a Celtic salt that's very like large grain. I'm talking about like a Himalayan salt or a Redmond's real salt or something like that. And I've just never really been able to enjoy my meals if I put that much salt on them. And I hate salty drinks. I have my little electrolyte drink that I do most days with orange juice and water and a little bit of salt, but like it's just a teeny bit. And then I put my potassium in there and I put my creatine in there, and that's great. But in terms of sodium and in terms of what my body apparently needs, I just don't do a good job of getting it in. Because when I drink salty things, they literally make me gag. And again, I can't remember what exactly the doctor said it was, but working with clients and knowing about POTS, the symptoms ultimately seem like very minor POTS symptoms, not to the extent that they actually interfere with my life, but that, you know, I'll be at the gym or I'll be in a space with like fluorescent lights and it's a certain size and degree of openness, and I'll just get dizzy. So I'm talking your ear off, but the point is, yesterday I was feeling this and I realized, I'm like, shoot, I really think it's salt. I really think I just need more sodium. And sure enough, I got a nasty electrolyte packet, and within minutes I felt completely better. And it's interesting how it's difficult to maintain objectivity when it's yourself sometimes, but we're gonna do something about this. I have a new strategy. Samuel suggested that I take the salt, I take a 1/4 teaspoon of it, I put it in my mouth, and then kind of like I do my liver shots, like I take a big sip of my water and just drink it as fast as I can. So I minimize the contact that it comes in with my mouth. I don't have to like drink a full bottle of it. Still salt my food well, but ultimately not make it taste not so good. So here we go. Still unpleasant, but I will honestly take that over an electrolyte drink, like a really salty electrolyte drink, any day. So it is 6:42 a.m., hence the atrocious light right now, but I'm gonna make some breakfast, a little like first breakfast and a coffee, and we're gonna head to the gym. I'm gonna do this chia pudding. It is a combo of coconut milk, yogurt, collagen to get the protein up, and then chia seeds. I know chia seeds can be like, are they even like controversial in the pro-metabolic space, and I kind of hate that, but no, I'll explain. So oftentimes when we are talking about like nuts and seeds, there is a little bit of hesitancy. We're talking about not consuming a ton of them, and the reason is that when it comes to fats, they are very high in polyunsaturated fats. I've shared here before, polyunsaturated fats are not all bad. We do need them. Our omega-6s and our omega-3s are in polyunsaturated fats. But the tricky thing with a lot of nuts, and they can be really damaging because we've been told like, oh, nuts are good fats, eat a ton of them, is that most of them, and a lot of seeds too, are incredibly high in omega-6 and incredibly low in omega-3. And in a world where we already really struggle with that ratio, we need more omega-3 relative to omega-6, it just makes people's problems worse. And I'm not saying never eat nuts if you enjoy them. I think there's a time and a place, but we have to be careful about it to not overdo it, and it can mess with our body's ability to handle inflammation, or with our inflammatory regulatory system. Chia seeds are incredibly high in omega-3, incredibly low in omega-6. So I believe, I'm gonna like totally mess this up. Is it a 2-to-1 ratio? Or sorry, 1-to-2 ratio or 1-to-4 ratio, I think. I said this in another video. I'll put it up on screen what it is, but it's really low in omega-6, high in omega-3. Clearly I'm still waking up. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna put some honey on it. And then speaking of salt and honey, a friend at the gym the other day, yesterday, was talking about this coffee he tried when he was in McCall recently, which is like a mountain town a couple hours away. And it was like a salted honey latte. I'm intrigued. So I'm gonna try to make that this morning. And then we'll check back in with second breakfast, my full-sized breakfast when I'm back from the gym. Second breakfast or the post-workout meal, I'm really going to focus on loading up on the protein. I don't track macros, but I do keep an eye on my protein throughout the day, just kind of keep a tally of it. I do that with my fiber as well, because that's another thing that I don't necessarily do the best job of consuming enough of unless I'm really mindful about it, and it makes a massive difference in terms of supporting our detoxification pathways, digestion as a whole, hormone balance, all of that good stuff. And just kind of a little caveat on macro tracking. I do absolutely see a place for it. I know a lot of people don't, but if we think about like eating intuitively, if you want to use that terminology, well, I think that's a great goal. I don't believe that at least the vast majority of people can simply go to eating intuitively without training their bodies to know what they need, if that makes sense, and then training themselves, their minds, to understand what certain signals mean. Because if you're in a state of dysregulation, you really can't eat intuitively. So that's where like tracking your macros, tracking your calories can have a place, absolutely does have a place. It's just obviously something you have to be careful about depending on a person's individual factors, sensitive to. But that's just kind of my thought on the topic. So as I said, focusing on protein, I probably got about 15-ish grams in from my first breakfast, and now I'm gonna have 2 eggs. These are pasture-raised eggs from Trader Joe's. I'll cook them in some Kerrygold butter. And these are pork sausages. I'm just storing in this Tupperware because they're already opened. Each of them has 6 proteins, so I'll probably have between 3 and 4 of these pork sausages. And what will that get me to? 30 to 36 more grams of protein. I'll have it with a banana. That'll get me about 3 grams of fiber and 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates. And then I have been loving cooking with these kelp granules recently, pushing the KitchenAid apart. But if you are looking for a way to get more iodine in your diet, this is really easy. It doesn't taste like much, it just has some umami, but you use it kind of as you would salt. I just give it a sprinkle on my eggs, and let's see, so a 1/4 teaspoon contains 1,654 micrograms of iodine, and the RDA for iodine is like 250. Don't quote me on that. I'm really bad at pulling numbers just off the top of my head. But all that was to say, you just need a little sprinkle and it helps you get what you need for the day. let's make breakfast. I'll probably also make another raw milk latte just because I wasn't a huge fan of the salted honey coffee, salted honey latte. I think if it had like a quarter of the salt, it would be tasty, but I'm just such a purist when it comes to coffee. I want like a plain latte, plain cappuccino, or black coffee, maybe with a splash cream in it. And otherwise it just doesn't feel the same. Okay, enough talking. Know by now that for lunch I do leftovers. I always double my dinner recipes because it makes it incredibly easy to just grab a complete and nutritious lunch the next day. And today even I'm just trying to use up everything in the fridge because we are leaving town insanely early tomorrow morning and I don't want anything to go bad while we're gone. So right here I have some rice. I have some of my pressure cooker roast. This recipe is in Basics, my pro metabolic starter guide, if you want to go check that out down below. I have a little 10% off discount code for you guys on YouTube if you're interested. Also, actually, from that cookbook is some acorn squash and beef stew. There's like no beef left in it. It's just broth and some acorn squash. So I'm going to finish this up. It's a fantastic way to get lots of potassium in through the squash and through the broth. And then of course, both with the roast and with the stew, you have kind of a diverse amino acid profile. It's really good because it's rich in collagen, which we don't get a ton of when we're just eating the muscle meat. So as much as I love ground beef, ground meat, as convenient as that is, as affordable as that is, it is good to throw in like other more gelatinous cuts or to throw in bone broth. I love making homemade bone broth. Again, in Basics, I have a recipe for it and I kind of break down in more depth all of this, like why it's valuable to include such things in your diet and how to do it practically. But all of that goes to say, when you just eat muscle meats, you don't get a full amino acid profile, and so it's good to get some of these gelatinous sources in as well. And I have some avocado, I have some jalapeno from our garden, and I have some lime. I know you can't see this right now, but I'll show you in a second. I'm going to make not like a full guacamole because I'm missing cilantro, missing red onion, which I always put in it, but I'm gonna do my best with what I have, and some cucumber randomly, and then I have these masa chips to eat with, or the maize chips to eat with the guacamole that I make. These are Siete brand, and they're corn chips. They are made with needle-molized corn. I can never get that out. One of these days I'll get it out without stuttering. And they are fried in avocado oil. So really great tortilla chip option. And before I make the guacamole, it's time to get ready for the most exciting part of the day. I have been doing liver shots recently. I know a while back, like if you're someone who's been here for a long time, you saw my video probably where I made liver pills. Like I'd freeze liver and tried to swallow the frozen liver. And I did that for a while, but realistically, like you have to swallow kind of a lot of those little teeny frozen liver pieces in order to get the ideal amount in. And desiccated beef liver is just, it's fantastic, but I prefer not to spend money on it if I can just handle something like straight beef liver. And I finally decided I'm gonna try doing the liver shots that I've seen people do, where you put it in the freezer, but then you thaw it out so you can swallow bigger pieces at one time. You thaw it out, and you just shoot it back. And honestly is the easiest way I have ever eaten liver. It is easier than cooking it into my food, which I still do. And I have recipes, you know, for that as well. It is fantastic to do that, but this is just so convenient. I cut it up, I freeze it for 2 weeks, and then I throw about an ounce, I just eyeball it kind of based on the number of pieces, about an ounce in this little bowl, and I let it thaw. I'll let it thaw just on the counter while I eat my lunch, and then I'll put some water on it to get it to thaw the rest of the way, and then I'll make my adrenal cocktail, and I'll get down all of the things I don't like at one time. I'll do the creatine in the adrenal cocktail, which isn't my favorite to take. I'll do beef liver, and I'll have so many nutrients in my body. I will say I have found with doing beef liver like this, that I need to do it with food in my stomach. Here's my thought process behind that. I found this because I tried it without and I got a stomach ache. But here's kind of thought process behind, because I'm not chewing it up. Chewing is actually a very important piece of digestion. So bonus points if you chew it up. I'm not there yet. I don't think I could. I legitimately think I would throw up. So I'm not gonna do that. But because I'm not chewing it, I am not like signaling to the rest of my digestive tract, hey dude, it's time to digest. And of course, you know, then my stomach has more work to do because it's not already smoothie consistency by the time it gets there. But I want to have already eaten most of a meal so that my body is like already digesting and it's not a complete shock when I put the liver in my stomach, if that makes sense. We have orange juice, 4 ounces of orange juice, 4 ounces of water. I'm gonna add 5 grams of creatine monohydrate here. Just another pinch of salt. Definitely not a full quarter teaspoon, but every bit counts. And then we have some potassium chloride here. The issue with creatine is it just does not dissolve fully. Don't let me scare you from taking it. I don't think I've ever met another person that it bothers. It just irks me. But in the orange juice, I don't notice it. Okay, you have the liver, maybe. Liver. Now I just do like 4 more times. You literally can't taste it at all. Probably the 5 most nutrient dense swallows I will take all day, packed full of copper and retinol to really help with proper iron metabolism, not to mention all of the other functions that those minerals or that mineral and that vitamin serve in our bodies. And then of course tons of B vitamins as well, and it leaves absolutely no aftertaste. I wish I would have found this way of doing things sooner or tried out this way of doing things sooner, because it's scary at first, but then it's seriously no trouble at all if you can just get past the mental side of things.
elk hunting is a really big thing here in Idaho, and one of our friends gave Samuel a pound of ground elk last time he saw him. So this is what we're gonna have for dinner tonight with some other odds and ends that are in the fridge. I'm just gonna cook this like I would ground beef. I've never actually tried elk before, so I'm excited to taste it. I can do a little taste test on camera, and I'm just gonna prepare it like I would ground beef so I can compare it that way, and we'll show you the end result. In my bowl for dinner, I've got a little bit of rice. I have the ground elk cooked with salt, pepper, smoked paprika, garlic, and a little bit more of those kelp granules. I have a bit more avocado, just trying to use that up, and a couple pickles. My dinner usually looks a little bit more different than my lunch. There's usually a little bit more variation in my day. However, this is just what we're working with, and I try to make these videos realistic, so here you go. I also have some Primal Kitchen buffalo sauce here, which I really love, and I love to eat on beef and rice, so I will probably use some of this as well, but I want to taste the elk first and just see how it is on its own. That's good. If someone told me it was beef, I would 100% believe that it was beef. But knowing that it's elk, I want to say it tastes just a little bit more almost irony. Is that what people mean when they say gamey? I don't know, I've had venison before, and I don't know that I would describe that the same way. It's very subtle, but I feel like there is like one strong note at the end that maybe isn't there with beef, but at the same time it's very tender, and it's probably just this particular meat, because my understanding was that elk would be tougher than beef because they're running around in the wild, but maybe not. I don't know. It's good. It tastes like beef. So, all right, I'm going to enjoy this dinner. I'll actually wait for my husband to come in before I eat the rest of it, but I wanted to taste it while I still had a little bit of sunlight. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. Comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye y'all.